This week on our AMP America Week in Review, Kamala Harris faces tough questions on Fox News as her media strategy seemingly shifts. Plus, why are celebrity endorsements not moving the needle for Democrats? And later, we'll explore why some Republicans are calling for a more aggressive approach against cultural Marxism. The election is heating up, and you don't want to miss it. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. Well, happy Saturday there, folks. Welcome to another Week in Review part of the Brian Nichols Show. I am your host, Brian Nichols. We have some really exciting topics that are really focusing here as we go the next couple weeks towards the end of the election. Kamala Harris, and she's having her media meltdown as she goes on Bret Baier over on Fox News. Plus, why endorsements like Taylor Swift or Mark Cuban really aren't making a difference. And then later, we're going to talk about why Republicans need to stop playing nice. And to do that today, unfortunately, my traditional co-host, good old Remzo Martinez, he's a little busy today. So I went into the archives and I said, you know, we're going to call it the big guns. We're going to call out our good buddy from Cody's Concerns, Kenny Cody from Human Events. Welcome back to the Brian Nichols Show, buddy. How you been?
I've been great, brother. It's great to be back with you. Like you said, go back to the archives. Haven't been on in a while, but it's great to be back.
It's great to have you. You've been busy. You've been writing a lot of bangers over at Human Events. I've been seeing them come out left and right. And man, you're making a name for yourself there. I'd say the right side of politics in that world. So besides that, what's been going on in the world of Kenny Cody?
It's been pretty hectic here. Of course, I live in East Tennessee, and we hear about that by the flooding pretty hard, being on the border of North Carolina. So just now getting back to normal life. It feels like kind of post-COVID here in Cott County and in Western North Carolina, East Tennessee. But things are beginning to go back to normal. Still writing articles. I think I'm going to have another article published next week. 3 weeks out from the election, Tennessee turnout has been, absolutely exploding. In my small county, just full of about 33,000 people. Already 3,300 people have voted since Wednesday in early voting. So over 10% of the population's already voted. Wow. In total. So it's been great. I think we're in for a really, really great day come November on election day. So we're pretty pumped up, man. It's going well. I think we're going to be okay. I really do.
Loved it. Love to hear it, man. And by the way, we are live this morning for folks who are wondering. Yes, we are live. We're recording here 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, Rumble decided not to stream this morning for us. So we are only airing on Twitter, which elephant in the room, I'm okay with, because Twitter has been probably the best, or X has been the best site I've leveraged here for actually getting information out there without it being censored. Facebook, looking at you, man, my Facebook account has been just nuked over the past few months with the election getting here. So Twitter is where we're going to be. X is where we're going to be airing today's episode. But let's go ahead and dig right into the topic of conversation today. And really, Kenny, as we look at this next 2 weeks or so of the election, it is POTUS election. But it's not, I don't think, where a lot of folks originally were looking at this election. Originally, you go back, way back, Kenny. Let's go to June of this past year, right? Biden and Trump, it looked like it was going to be a pretty much a cakewalk for Trump. Up until that debate, everybody kind of knew that Biden wasn't 100%. Then that debate between him and Trump, it answered the question everybody had. So all of a sudden, you see like, okay, it's Trump, right? You got Mark Zuckerberg coming out and be like, wow, I never saw something more badass when Trump got the assassination attempt. He stands up, the fight. So you have that debate. You have the assassination attempt within weeks of each other. And at that moment, there was about a week period or so where it was more or less the writing was on the wall. Biden wasn't going to carry forward the election. Somebody's taking over. It's going to be someone like a Michelle Obama, a Hillary Clinton, or his sitting VP, Kamala Harris. Well, we got the answer, right? It was Kamala Harris. Fast forward, there was a huge bump with all the media apparatuses going through, supporting her, promoting her, asking zero tough questions. And on the flip side, the Harris campaign going out of their way to avoid any situations where they would have to face some tough questions. And yet, Kenny, here we are as we're getting closer to the election. That approach, that strategy doesn't really seem to have taken to some effect. And actually, we were seeing not just Kamala Harris really start to stall But Donald Trump, especially these past 2 weeks, he's starting to skyrocket and making inroads with a lot of minority communities that folks never would have given him a chance to win going back into 2016. So fast forward to 2024, suddenly Kamala Harris finds herself at a crossroads. Do I continue this same strategy I've been doing over the past 2 months? Or do we maybe make a change? Do we start putting ourselves in positions to have uncomfortable conversations? So, what happened this past week? Over on Fox News, Kamala Harris sat down for her first real big girl interview where it wasn't exactly a friendly interview. Now, yes, she did sit down with Bill Whitaker over on 60 Minutes, but that interview was heavily edited. And it was very obvious they were trying to get her over the finish line. Fox News, Bret Baier, not so much. So, Kenny, we watched Bret Baier just grill Kamala Harris, not let her get off with her platitudes of, well, I was born to a middle class household, Kenny. Like, it is none of that kind of stuff. He actually asked her tough questions and expected tough answers. What was your feedback, Kenny, as you're watching that interview between Kamala Harris? And do you think that she's taking the right step and trying to talk to some different audiences that, yes, are more confrontational, but maybe are going to be open to considering a different way of doing things with a Kamala Harris administration?
Well, if you've ever watched the campaign with Will Ferrell and Zach Galifianakis, there's a moment where during a speech at a town hall where Will Ferrell gets up there. I think his name is Cam Brady in the movie, and he goes up there and he says, "Welcome to the show." Use it as an expletive that I'm not going to say, but that's kind of the way that I feel about Kamala Harris. Like she did an interview in which Donald Trump has been doing for the last 10 years of his political career. Any sit down interview is going to be contentious. Any sit down interview is going to be him being held accountable to a certain extent by a fierce interviewer. And even by those that, are conservative leaning, like Bret Baier. I forget when he sat down with Trump, but it's not been that long ago. And if you'll go back and watch that interview with Baier and Donald Trump, it's just as contentious. Like, it's just as strict. It's just as questioning, and she couldn't handle it, and Trump can. Like, the amount of media that Trump has done over the last few months has changed politics forever. The fact that he's going on with people like Theo Vaughn, with people like Patrick Bet David, and supposedly here in the next few weeks before the election, with Joe Rogan. Like, the fact that he has expanded the accessibility to alternative media in a way that no other presidential candidate has before tells me that Kamala Harris wanted to kind of dip her toe into it and knew she had to do something. But the problem is, the more people saw Kamala Harris, the more they despised her. And when she went on with Bret Baier, was somebody who literally the first question that he asked, but was like, he did the pleasantries, thank you for being with us. And the first question was about illegal immigration and the little girls that have been killed under her administration. That is as tough as a question as I think I've ever heard asked to a Democratic candidate. Baier's so good at this stuff too. He interviewed Barack Obama in 2012. He said Obama needs to quit filibustering. That's a famous quote from Baier to Obama. But I think the more people see Kamala Harris, the more they dislike her because she cannot explain her policy positions. She cannot be personable. Trump is for the faults that people want to attribute to Trump and in the way that he combats the media. Trump's very likable. He makes people laugh. He's basically a stand-up comedian. And Kamala Harris couldn't make you laugh with laughing gas. I mean, she is just so unbelievably unpersonal and just very cringeworthy, as the kids like to say. So it's just very the more Kamala Harris talks, the less people like her. And I think with that exposure in the Lions Den with Bret Baier, I can't believe I'm calling Bret Baier a lion, but he very very much was this week in this interview. So I'm very happy that she decided, unfortunately, to do that because I think Trump was already rising in the polls, already had the momentum, and it's just sustained it.
So there's a couple of things I want to take back. I'm so glad you called out the fact that Bret Baier, this wasn't like just a contentious interview to Kamala Harris because she's a Democrat on Fox News. This was Bret Baier, and listen, I get it. He is not a libertarian, elephant in the room, and yeah, he's actually an old school legitimate journalist. He is trying to hold people in positions of politics to account, and he, to your point, did a really tough interview with Donald Trump, and he did a really tough interview with Kamala Harris. Now, it's the outcomes of that interview that really speaks to, I think, the overall the preparedness of the candidates, but also the tenor of where we are as a country, right, Kenny? Because and Remzo and I talked about this last episode. There was this vibes mentality in the Kamala Harris campaign that was really just it was the band-aid that was holding everything together for the campaign. It was this joy. It was this, we're turning the page. We're turning the page. It's like, okay, turning the page towards what? You're the sitting VP. And nobody was able to ask her these tough questions, right? Because she never put herself in a position where she would have to answer tough questions. And I think this interview, Kenny, and I would love to hear your context here and your perspective. This interview was like you go into the basement and you got the flashlight and you shine the flashlight and you see the roaches, and the roaches are like, ah, and they scatter, right? That felt like that's what happened to Kamala Harris with any of her coherent thoughts the moment she was pushed with a not friendly question, right? The moment she was asked to elaborate on something or to give some context, like, oh, I don't know, Kamala, you're running for office in 2024, yet you're presenting yourself as a moderate, despite the fact that 4 years ago we saw you running for president, the exact role you're running for today, with the exact opposite policies. As a matter of fact, the policies you represented were far left policies, policies that were open borders, policies that were paying for trans surgeries in prisons, policies that are not popular with, I would dare say, Kenny, a majority of Americans. So all of a sudden, you get the person out of their groupthink, out of their echo chamber, and you position them on a stage to now answer tough questions to normal people. You now no longer can speak that contrived, elitist language and think that it's just going to resonate with the average person. And I think that right there was the kryptonite. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I think when this is going to be the turning point in the campaign, like I said, I mean, already the Trump was polling a lot closer. You know, Trump's always polled close to swing states. You know, people want to look at the popular national vote. And we have an electoral college, guys. Doesn't really matter that much. But if you looked at swing states like Pennsylvania, like Nevada, like Michigan and Wisconsin, and the majority of us are undecided. Are not undecided voters, but the undecided voters are the ones that decide the election. And the one thing that people get exposed to in deciding who's going to win or who they're going to vote for, it's watching how they do in media. You know, that's why people criticize Trump so much in the debate, because people Trump came off to some independents as very aggressive, and now of course I loved it, right? But I think Harris deserved it in that regard. Everything that Trump said was accurate during that debate, but she doesn't know how to grab moments, and it's such a bad skill set to have as a politician. You know, if Trump had such a bad debate as the media want to say he had back in September, you would have those viral moments. You would have, you'd be in jail. You would have your sir, you're no Jack Kennedy, but we did not have that. And Harris, is many times during her career, cannot get capture the moment. Like
Mm-hmm.
she can't catch the ball. Like no matter how easy of a layup that she has in terms of media interviews, in terms of literally food on a platter, like she can't do it. Like it's such a bad attribute for a politician. Like I've never seen anybody who has. I mean, Joe Biden, for all of his faults, was a seasoned politician for 50 to 60 years in U.S. politics, and kept the ship steady. Like he kept it in the road, as people like to say. Like he was not pressed by the media by a lot, and what he was pressed by, he was just this old man, old Catholic, the old Irish Catholic that people enjoyed. Like he was like their
Come
grandpa.
on,
That's the
man.
mantra. Yeah, right, exactly. Like that's the mantra that he always carried. And like when you are Kamala Harris and you are from the most far left leaning state in the country, don't have a great reputation of going from a far left progressive now to being a moderate that's now going to all of a sudden get the endorsements of union workers. Like you can't afford to not have moments, and she's not had a moment. Like we've only got a few days of October left, and maybe I'm going to be wrong. I mean, there's going to be something that comes out, and Kamala Harris just has her moment and wins the election. That could absolutely happen. It is U.S. politics, but it's I've never seen a candidate that has had more opportunities granted to her by the media, by her own party, and propping her up as the nominee without ever receiving a single primary vote. I've really never seen so many opportunities squandered. Like I said, even in a debate where most of the media thought Trump lost, I personally didn't, and neither did independents. But the fact that you didn't have a moment then, the fact that you not had a moment at a rally, the fact that you haven't had a moment in a media interview, all of them have been bad. Every opportunity that she has squandered, she has squandered. Like
Yep.
it's so unbelievable. I mean, it's great for us, great for Republicans, and great for Trump, especially her being the second presidential nominee he's actually had to run against, which is an insane sentence. But I just don't see a pathway for her to redeem herself in terms of PR, or public relations, or perception. I hope I'm correct, and she, like I said, Brian, she might turn around and win in November. I don't know. I mean, I think Trump's in a pretty good position right now, especially with turnout. But I can't believe the amount of media opportunities that she squandered, and she just keeps on doing it and doing it and doing it.
She's a substanceless Obama. Like at least Obama, when he would go on these different news shows, right? He got the Obama charm, right? He can present things in a great package. But guess what? Obama actually knows his shit, right? Like that is the piece that is so important to pay attention to. Obama isn't just an empty suit. He actually believes a lot of this stuff. Now, I'm not saying Kamala doesn't believe some of this stuff, but I don't think she really understands a lot of this stuff. She's been told these are the things that you're supposed to believe, and she can absolutely regurgitate a talking point. But when and we talked about this, I forget the gentleman's name who's on the show, but he taught about iceberg selling, right? And you think of an iceberg out in the ocean and you see the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole bunch of iceberg that you can't see below that water line, right? And that is representative of Kamala versus like somebody like Obama. Obama, yes, he could talk about the surface level stuff, right? The tip of the iceberg. And then if you ask him a follow-up question, yeah, he could give you some context, the behind the scenes stuff, the rest of the iceberg. Kamala Harris, keeping in this floating analogy, right? Think of a buoy out in the ocean. The buoys, you can see the tip of the buoy, but there's nothing underneath, right? It's just a buoy sitting in the ocean. There's no substance. There's nothing beyond it from what you see. That is Kamala. Kamala knows enough what to say, but when pressed or when she's actually asked to explain or to help elaborate what she believes, you can instantly see it's the does not compute NPC face. And that right there, and by the way, this is very obvious in the Bret Baier interview, she gets mad. She gets frustrated. She starts to turn into, I'm speaking. Can I finish, Bret? That kind of stuff. And by the way, this goes back to the episode with Remzo and I last week, where there is very much a reality that the Harris campaign needs to face. That approach, it just does not jive with men, right? This scolding, this belittling, this I'm talking perspective. Good luck. Like, go for it. If you want to run as that being like your approach, by all means, go for it. But good luck in trying to get your average dude to support your campaign, which goes to why the ad we shared last week. I'll save the descriptors of that ad because Remzo had a great terminology for a certain type of energy that was represented by that ad. But that ad speaks to how the Kamala Harris campaign does not understand how to reach out to men, do not understand that this approach not only is very unappealing to men, but will instantly turn men off. And by the way, Kenny, speaks to why so many black men are starting to jump ship from the Democratic Party establishment. They are supporting Donald Trump in mass. I've never seen this happen before in my adult life, Kenny. I'm seeing former black prominent NFL players like Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and former players like Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback for the Dolphins, like the Tom Brady, right? These are quarterbacks and players who very noted in the NFL, and two of them black, or Tua black? No, he's Hawaiian. But like you have all of a sudden these prominent athletes who never really put their toe into the political world, unless you're Travis Kelce. But like the fact that all of a sudden you're seeing a change, you're seeing a flip, and your average dudes, black, white, mix the colors together, they're just tired of it. They're tired of the scolding. They're tired of being told you're bad for feeling like a man. You're bad for not just bending over backwards to support the she boss, right? Like, sorry, that doesn't work. So we're gonna move forward to, and I'm gonna change things a little bit, Kenny, from the approach we took earlier. So just a heads up, because we do need to talk more about what Republicans need to do when they're addressing, and not just Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, when you're trying to actually fight back against what the Democratic establishment, and in this case, the Kamala Harris campaign, have been doing. But before we do that, Kenny, we're going to go ahead and give a shout out to one of our phenomenal sponsors here on the Brian Nichols Show, and that is our good friends over at Clockum Coffee. Let's go ahead and take a listen. If you think you're supporting small farms with your coffee choices, think again. Many brands hide behind fancy packaging while sourcing cheap coffee beans. So you need to stop compromising on quality and on ethics. Clockum Craft Coffee was born from a desire for both transparency and excellence in the coffee game. They personally select every bean, ensuring top quality and fair practices. So experience coffee the way it's supposed to be: honest, delicious, and roasted with care. Plus, an exclusive offer for Brian Nichols Show fans. Use code BNS10 for 10% off at clockumcraft.coffee. Link in the show notes. And now, let's get back to the show. All right, Kenny. So let's transition into an article you wrote over at Human Events. This article is articulating how, Republicans, I'm going to say beyond Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, anybody right of Chairman Mao in the political specter there, Kenny, stop playing nice, especially after Trump's second assassination attempt. This going back to what we saw happen down in Florida, but also carrying forward what we just talked about with the assassination attempt in Butler, PA. So let's talk about this, Kenny. Kind of what's your perspective? Why do Republicans, and I'm going to carry it forward, libertarians, conservatives, the political right, why do they need to stop playing nice and start fighting back?
Well, it just blows my mind that in an era where Democrats are trying to kill our presidential nominee, that people want to try to have the rhetoric that we need to have as if we're in the the mid 2000s with George W. Bush. Like, the left of today and the Democrats of today are not the Democrats they were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever you want to say. They are violent Marxist extremists, and we need to be able to call them that. And it's not going to cost anybody an election for people who are wanting to transition minors to being transgender. These people are not normal. I don't know what to tell people, especially like a lot of the Republicans on my side. They're like, oh well, we're the ones that tried to vote for Ron DeSantis. You're all the ones that got Donald Trump. That whole mantra. We need to unite behind a message that these people are not just moderate Democrats. This is not the modern Joe Manchins. Okay. These people are legitimately cultural Marxist evildoers like that. And we have to punish them. Like, we have to punish them at the ballot box. We have to punish them in policy, in rhetoric, on podcasts, in media, in writing. Like, from every single aspect, Republicans have got to stop saying, we don't need to call them unhuman. We don't need to call them these cultural Marxists and evil. And yeah, we do. They've tried to kill our dude twice. They've been painting us as fascists for the last 10 years, and even before that. We bring up all the time, like when Joe Biden and Mitt Romney, when he said that Mitt Romney was the Joe Biden and Barack Obama told the Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, we're going to put black people back in chains. Like, this has been escalating for more than 10 years, and now we've led to a point where we all knew it was going to go, right? Like, we all knew after the Rand Paul attempted assassination attempt when he was assaulted, after Steve Scalise was shot at the congressional baseball game, when Nancy Mace was sent white powder in a envelope to her house and to her children. Like, we know this is going to happen. Even people back home, like here in Tennessee, like I hope they don't try to kill him. He was so honest. Trump was so honest about the establishment, about the CIA, about the NSA, about the deep state. Everybody's like, man, I love what he's saying. I hope they don't try to kill him. and they finally tried twice within 3 months. And I have to sit back and hear moderate Republicans talk about how the rhetoric should change and how we can't be willing to make the efficient change. We can't be willing to paint them for how they are. Like it's the same things that I said in 2022 when we don't have a message besides with Trump, and we've got to get a message that is still fighting, that is still nationalist, that is still populist when Trump is done. Like Trump is going to serve another term, in my belief, until 2028. And then what do? We can't revert back. Like we can't have 8 years of Donald Trump and really 14 years in technicality in terms of him being campaigning since 2015, and then all of a sudden go back to, okay, now we're just going to go back to niceness, moderate banker politics. Like it's not the way we need to go. So it frustrates me to such a certain extent with the GOP, with Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, the same people who are going to write in a candidate, the same people who are going to vote third party, and the same people that are going to skip out, or the same people who say, I'm going to vote for him, but I don't like it. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you like voting for the most anti-establishment candidate in American history that is literally preventing people from transgendering prisoners that are
Let me
spending
answer
your
that for you,
taxpayer
Kenny.
money? Yeah.
Let me answer this.
Yeah.
So let me answer this for you, because I had same church, different pew conversation. I was on a podcast Thursday night as we're recording here today on Saturday morning, which we are live on X, by the way. So thank you for joining us. Head down below into the comments. Let us know your thoughts. But this was a conversation that turned into more of a debate on that podcast. And the argument on I would say, the more moderate, independent, centrist perspective, two things. They argue, one, we're tired. We're tired of 3 elections now in a row of a Trump. That's the one argument. And that all that comes with him, right? The chaos in America, people not loving each other, hating each other. That's number one. Number two, Kenny, and this is something I'm still stuck on. There are a large number of folks who only get their news from those 3-letter organizations: CBS, Fox, MSNBC. Well, I guess that's 4 letters. CNN, go through the list, PBS, NPR. So for them, the context of real life is what they see when those arbiters of truth are presenting it to them, right? So when they look at things like January 6th, the official narrative becomes the narrative versus, I just listened to a very in-depth podcast with folks like Steve Baker, Adam, his name escapes me. He was the lectern guy. He was on my show. Adam Johnson. And there's one other gentleman over on Tim Pool's Culture War podcast talking about what they experienced as actual, boots on the ground, lectern guy, obviously known for the lectern photos, smiling. He was the HGTV Chip Gaines Wish version, right? Go ahead and get him. You got Steve Baker, journalist from The Blaze, who was just there doing journalism stuffs. All of a sudden, he's finding himself facing, I think it's like 8 years in prison just because he was doing his job and reporting what was happening, right? So you had that coupled with the hours and hours and hours of security footage that was released. You have the transcript. You have Nancy Pelosi walking down the hallway, videotape saying, "This is my fault. I should have helped increase the security like I was asked to." Like, you have all these things that we know, right? We pay attention, but that doesn't make it, Kenny, to the official narrative. The official narrative is, well, we had this House Oversight Committee led by Republicans like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, okay, who are saying that this is the worst thing ever, right? This is the worst thing. This is the worst attack on America since 9/11, Kenny, since 9/11. And this mentality carries forward to your average person. So to go full circle here, why I went down this rabbit hole, back to why I think a lot of folks in the GOP, Republican, conservative, libertarian camp are weary of doing what you're talking about and fighting back and starting to use the more aggressive tactics of the left, is that they are afraid that those tactics will be married to the narratives that have captured a large group of folks, like my friend who I had a podcast with the other day, where they see only what they have been presented, versus what's actually there. Again, going back to the iceberg analogy, right? What's actually below the surface. And there is no desire to dig below that surface to understand the context because they're tired. They're burned out. Going back to the first point, they're like, this is the third election I've had with Trump. And I've also heard the narrative of like, well, he's not going to give up power. He's gonna, even if he loses, he's going to run again. I'm like, dude, he's going to be 82 years old. Number one, if he loses and he wants to run again, I don't think so. Number two, if he wins, he's term limited out. So if, and this whole like, he's a unique threat to the American democracy. I'm sorry. He's a unique threat to the establishment control. That's what he's a unique threat to. But going back to your point here, Kenny, in this article, I think that is my 35,000 foot perspective on why so many folks are weary to this approach. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that country club mentality. You know, people who sit
Spot on.
and yeah. I mean, I think it's been a problem in the GOP for so long, and I'm kind of glad it kind of connects back to the point where we're talking about interviews and media. I am glad the alternative media is there, and but like the shows like yours, like Jack Posovic's, like Tim Pool's, like Joe Rogan, like Patrick Bet David, Theo Vaughn, Impulsive, whatever you want to talk about. These people have so many voices, and it's becoming. I think you said earlier that it's shocking to see the inroads that Trump's making with young black men, and I can't attribute this every bit to it. I think Kamala Harris's unlikability, her unpopularity is unfavorable, whatever adjective that you want to attribute to her. I think it has a lot to do with it. But what I think more than anything else is the amount of outreach that Trump has done on these podcasts. I mean, if you look at the audiences of Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, Patrick Bet David, Logan Paul, what was the guy, Lex Friedman. If you look at all of these men and all of these people that he's interviewed with, Andrew Schultz with Flagrant, guess who their main demographic is? It's 18 to 25-year-old men. Like that's
Which,
who
by the way,
watch
that's
those
the group of
shows.
men. There's that video of Kamala Harris being like, 18 to 24-year-olds. I mean, let's be real. They're stupid. Sorry.
No, yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, that's I think those inroads. I think in the same way in 2016 you saw Clinton, not go to Wisconsin, and she didn't appeal to the working class. You're seeing Teamsters that are, basically endorsed Donald Trump. Like everybody says they make official endorsement, but they did release the polling, right? It was 58-41 Trump to Harris.
Which was,
And
by the way, a complete flip from it was Biden
yes,
Harris or Biden Trump. Biden was those high numbers, and you just see a complete flip from those. I'm going to say those Biden guys, like 20% of them went right over to Trump instantly, just because they're like, nope, can't do it.
Yeah, but the working class was, and Biden was appealable, like being from Scranton, being from, being that Irish Catholic, he was viewed as a working man and being for like an old school Democrat, and she is not. Like, I mean, I know she's 60, but she's somehow viewed as young in terms of politics, and you see that progressive left mantra that she fights for. Yeah, but like I was saying, like with the alternative media, like. I think that's why Trump's made those inroads is I think that there's this new identity in Republican politics that alternative media is becoming and we can attribute this all to Donald Trump. Like I'm going to give it to the alternative media, like of course, like the people they've had on multiple different shows, and amazingly enough, I think Joe Rogan has been the intellectual leader of that in terms of sitting down with literally anybody. But the thing that like, but Trump being willing to go on that, like, I can't imagine as a 70-something-year-old man going on these podcasts and sitting there for 30 minutes at a pop, going from show to show to show to show to show,
It's a
along
lot.
with all this TV. It's a lot to do, man. I mean, I go on probably I go on TV weekly now with Jack, and like it's a hassle for me to like go to my location, go film. I'm recording from my house today because I've got to be somewhere today, but going to my little studio, I guess you call it, with a microphone and a bought webcam. I mean, it's a hassle for me to do that. I can't imagine as a 70-year-old presidential candidate going around and doing that and giving the opportunity for that age demographic to watch it. And that's what I think where the Republican Party may need to, at least have an olive branch out to where we didn't before, is we're always going to either struggle or succeed with these country club Republicans that watch the mainstream media. But where you make inroads with minorities, where you make inroads with young people, and to me, that's going to change the election. Like with these young people that are voting now, these young college men are conservative, which is insane. Even back when I was in college in 2016 and 2018, like I went to the University of Tennessee and went to Walsh State Community College. Like when I was there at those two colleges, it was dominantly liberal, like from every young person. But now it's this unabashed, like, I'm a conservative and I'm proud of it. And that was not the way that it was even 10 years ago or even 8 years ago. Like, and now you're seeing like the frats, the sports fan, like you're saying with the athletes, like this embrace of masculinity, the embrace of just common sense is becoming so prevalent within the Republican, and not even Republican, it's kind of like the barstool conservatives. Like
Yes.
it's really resonating. And I think Trump's outreach to the alternative media is really turning the page on, hey, this old country club Republican is dying out either literally or ideologically within the next 10 years, because alternative media is going to continue to not necessarily dominate, but have such an essential role in opposition to the mainstream media. And I think that's where conservatives can make inroads if they just be honest, like be personable. Don't act like all prim and proper when you're going on these podcasts. Lay back, sit down. You know, JD Vance did the same thing with the Knelt Boys. Like he's been awesome as a media surrogate, as the VP nominee. If we just continue to do things like this, I really think Republicans can succeed and start forgetting about it. If you don't want to fight, then get out of the way. Like
Yep.
if you don't want to fight, go to the ballot box and get out of the way.
Yeah, you mentioned something like the old country club mentality, and that seems to be going away. We talk about this in sales, right? And everything is sales. I've said it a million times here in the show. You talk about existing logos versus new logos. You always need to be going after new logos because, yeah, your base of business is great, but unless you're growing that base of business, which one vote is one vote. Sorry, you can't. Unless you're the Democratic Party, in which case one vote could be 4 votes. Who knows? But when you look at the existing voter base of the Republican Party, it's dying. It's going away, right? It's the companies. The companies are going out of business, so you're losing that customer base. So what are you doing to bring it back up, right? And in this case, it is going out, finding new voters and new logos in this case that you're bringing on to become buyers of, in this case, a Republican, conservative, libertarian perspective. Now, this is not to say, to your point, that they're all like rock rib conservatives or Republicans, but there's just, and maybe this is the way to kind of capture all this, is that there just hasn't been an appeal to the average dude. Barstool, just average, like your union dudes, your guy's guy, right? There has not been an appeal to that type of person. Republicans have always gone after the country club folks, right? Think of the Mitt Romneys of the world, the John McCains, the George Bushes. It was always this, but hey, my dad was president. Well, I was in the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Well, I did. And it's always like rubbing elbows, buddy. But in terms of like taking that and appealing to a different voting base, who does that appeal to? No one, right? And as a matter of fact, that was one of the main like attack points from the Democrats towards the Republican Party back, I mean, over the past 20 years. I think of Family Guy. I used to think of all the different episodes where they would have, some hoity-toity Republican going off to their country club to go play a round of golf with another CEO somewhere, right? That is the perception of the Republican Party. And what I think the overall, like Trump going on these different podcasts and stuff, Kenny, is showing that mentality is gone now. Like, yes, Trump is the epitome of that. From Trump, I mean, think all the different golf clubs or the golf resorts he has and the towers with his name on it. Like, he is the epitome of that. Yet he takes he takes a step back and still meets the average person on a level that they can relate to. That's a skill, right? Like, to be a multi-billionaire, be the person who has been helping build these institutions, and to be like, but I still relate to you. I can still have a conversation with you. That is where it's changing. And you mentioned the barstool kind of mentality, this like the dudes do, the college, fraternity kind of mentality. I think that's going to come back, and it's going to come back strong. And we're seeing so right now. So I'm really curious to see what happens here over the next few weeks, candidly, Kenny. So while as we're all sitting there trying to think what is going to be happening next, I'm sure your heart is getting some palpitations. Well, have no fear. I have a great solution to help give you the strongest heart possible, and that is with an awesome supplement I use twice a day, every day. I have been for the past year and a half with amazing results. It's called Cardio Miracle. Let's take a listen. Hey, folks, I want to take a moment to talk about something that has truly changed my life, and that is Cardio Miracle, our incredible studio sponsor. Now, I'll be honest, when I first heard about Cardio Miracle and their claims about improving heart health, I was skeptical. But after using it for just about 2 months, I was absolutely blown away by the results. First, my blood pressure went from being consistently around 140/90 to a much more healthier and manageable 120/80. And my resting heart rate dropped from the low 70s to the high 50s. And I couldn't believe it. But the benefits didn't stop there. I started sleeping better, and I felt more energized at the gym, and my heart felt the best it's felt in years. And it's not just me. Hundreds of you, our amazing listeners, have reached out to share your own incredible experiences with Cardio Miracle. So, what is Cardio Miracle? And how does it work? It's a carefully crafted supplement that harnesses the power of nitric oxide to support optimal heart function. So, by increasing nitric oxide levels in your blood, Cardio Miracle helps relax your blood vessels, improve circulation, and it protects your heart from damage. It's like giving your heart the support it needs to function at its best. And here's the best part. We've got an exclusive offer just for you, our loyal listeners here at the Brian Nichols Show. When you head over to cardiomiracle.com and use code TBNS at checkout, you'll get an extra 15% discount on your order. Plus, with their 100% money-back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So, if you're ready to take control of your heart health and experience the life-changing benefits of Cardio Miracle for yourself, just click the link in the show notes or video description. Trust me, your heart will thank you. And don't wait another day to prioritize your health. Join the tens of thousands of folks who have already discovered the Cardio Miracle difference. Head to cardiomiracle.com now and use code TBNS for 15% off your order. Your journey to a happier and healthier heart starts today. And now, let's get back to the show. I've been using Cardio Miracle, not kidding, for like just about a year and a half, going on 2 years at this point, Kenny. I rarely will like just plant my flag on the mountain and say, this is an amazing product. Cardio Miracle is an amazing product. I could not believe watching, genuinely, my heart rate just plummet. It was like average resting, upper 60s, low 70s, down to like high 40s, low 50s. My blood pressure, thanks mom and dad, history of high blood pressure. I work out 6 days a week and I still was having high blood pressure. And I'm like, what do I do? Took Cardio Miracle. Within a month and a half, my blood pressure went from like 140/90 down to like 120/80 consistently. I'm sleeping better. My pump at the gym. So I'm saying all this. I love Cardio Miracle. And I was actually out in Utah where they're HQ'd back. I've been out there like 3 times in the past 6 weeks for work. But like I actually saw a billboard for Cardio Miracle. So it's been one of those supplements that has been slowly but surely starting to get that Atlas stone going down the hill. And I'm seeing Russell Brand. He was promoting Cardio Miracle the other day. So don't just take my word for it. There's other folks out there who are experiencing the Cardio Miracle benefits and differences for themselves. Yours truly as well. So you gotta go ahead and ask me about it. Get some insights. Email me, shoot me a message here on Twitter. And by the way, we are live. So thank you for joining us here live on X this morning. We tried to live stream over on Rumble. Rumble said nah, and I couldn't get the links to work. So we're only going solo today on X. So thank you for joining us. I see we have had a couple hundred folks jumping in and out of the episode this morning. So, we start 8:30 a.m. Eastern, bright and early. And with me today is Kenny Cody from Human Events. Kenny, we're going to go ahead and talk about the last article here today, because I know you got to get running. And that is talking about this approach. And this kind of goes to bookend the conversation we were having last segment. There is still this appeal by the Democratic Party to try and get the average person to pay attention, or maybe not the average person, but more the how do I say this nicely? Your average person who is politically unaware, but aware enough that they'll still go vote, right? The normie, right? The normie vote. So they've gone out and they've tried to bring folks like Taylor Swift to the table to convince all of these different voters that, well, Kamala Harris is the best. Or Mark Cuban, right? Mark Cuban's going around right now, and he's on all these different shows, and he's he's got pictures somewhere of himself or something that the Democrats have, and they let him know about it. Or he's just positioning himself for 2028, which I think that's the more likely of the scenarios. But Kenny, we're seeing this. There is an attempt and an appeal right now, the Democrats, to try and bring these big name celebrities, Taylor Swift, Mark Cuban, throw them at the problem, and hopefully that solves it. But you're saying, and you're arguing, and I want to hear your thoughts here, that approach, it won't work. Hit us with it.
Well, I mean, if you look back to 2018, this is what the article talks about. Some of the endorsements, I mean, I think they can help in some areas, like in terms of voter registration and getting young people involved. But, first of all, you're seeing Trump organically do it. He's not going out and asking for Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell or Dennis Quaid or any of these men who have come out and support him. He's just organically doing it, and it's from the most unlikely sources imaginable. And then you see this plea of the Democrat Party, oh, Taylor, please endorse us. Please get your fans, your Swifties to come out and support us. Like, if you look back to 2018. So in 2018, Marsha Blackburn, our great U.S. Senator from Tennessee, was elected to the United States Senate. And people actually thought that the person who was running against her, a guy named Phil Bredesen, who was the former very, very, very popular governor, who was a Democrat from Tennessee, ran against her for the U.S. Senate in 2018, and it was the best candidate they could field. I actually probably agree with that. I think he was probably the only candidate that could come within 25 points of Marsha Blackburn, and he came within 25 points. But after Taylor Swift endorsed him, all the mainstream media did the same thing they're doing with Kamala Harris. Like, oh, her endorsing her and telling her fans to vote for Kamala Harris is going to change the election is the same thing. Oh, Taylor Swift endorsing Phil Bredesen is going to change the election because Swift's from Tennessee. It's her adopted home state. And you know how much it mattered? Absolutely zero. It had no sustainable impact whatsoever. We rejected him and rejected the Democratic Party, even as popular. This is what I mean. Phil Bredesen won Tennessee by 65% or more as a Democrat in 2000 and in early 2006. Like, and we were still a dominantly presidential wise, we're still a dominantly Republican state. And he won the state. I mean, he was, and was a very popular governor, even in rural, especially rural counties here in Tennessee. But the fact that Taylor Swift couldn't even help him, like, he got beat by 3 to 4 to 5 points more than people thought he was going to get beat. Like, it ended up being an 11-point race when people had it within the margin of error or had it within 5 or 6 points. And I think there's this craving of celebrities in politics. And I understand to an extent in saying, we want this for voter registration reasons. We want it as an outreach to young people. But if you can't organically do this, like, we all know that Taylor Swift was begged. Like, it's not like she's like a lot of these musicians going out and playing concerts for Kamala Harris. She isn't having voter registration rallies at her concerts. Like, she's not doing that. Like, she's not really passionate about who she's endorsing. I think it would be different if you had a celebrity that was just on, it's just like with Elon Musk. Like, I think Elon Musk makes a difference. He's going out and campaigning and rallying for Trump, like literally going out on the front lines and rallying for him with RFK and Tulsi Gabbard. But Swift isn't doing that. Like Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown's doing that for Trump. Like, they're having a voter registration rally at the Pittsburgh Steelers game this weekend. But you're not seeing Taylor Swift or anything, and it's just fake juice. Like, I don't know if you ever heard that term, but fake juice is like this idea that you're saying all these things and you're trying to be passionate, you're trying to be for a cause or for a person, and if you just can just read right through them, oh, this is just fake, dude. Like, you don't really mean this, you don't really believe this, you're just doing this to either line your pockets or to come off as a supporter, come off as an antagonist. Like, you're not actually believing things that you're saying. And that's all that the endorsement came off to for me. Like, I mean, maybe like the Lizzos and the Megans of this whatever her name is, this Megan the Horse, Megan the Stallion, whatever her name is.
Oh, Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah, whatever her name is. I don't listen to rap music much, but going out and doing surprising, right? Maybe good for them for going out and doing concerts, and that being the only reason anybody shows up to a political rally. But in Atlanta, but I just don't. I don't think that these celebrity endorsements matter. I mean, Hollywood's always been Hollywood, and even Nashville and other music centers in the world have always been liberal and have always been Democrat. That's why the Republican celebrity involvement oftentimes makes a difference, because people's like, oh wow, they're Republican. Holy crap, you know, like that's the impression that Republicans get, and that is how much celebrity endorsements don't matter for Democrats, because everybody already assumes that these musicians, these actors, these celebrities are pretty much nothing but Democrat liberals. Like, it's not surprising. Like when Taylor Swift said since she was endorsing Kamala Harris, you know what Republicans did? Like, yeah,
Okay.
of course she is, right? Like, she endorsed Biden. Like, what's the big shock here? Like, there's no shock whatsoever. The same person who raised money, for the George Floyd riots, and the same person that was, in promotion of a assault weapon ban, is voting for Kamala Harris. Wow, how shocking! Like, it's. I can't believe people were surprised by it, and like I said, I mean, I think the celebrity thing is ironically does help Republicans and doesn't really help Democrats, because people already assume that Democrats the celebrities are going to support the Democratic Party. But it's always surprising people like you said with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Dennis Quaid, John Voight. All these people come out and in full throated support of Trump. But like, people are assuming the same thing about Democrats, so it doesn't really matter. And you can just ask my state how much Taylor Swift's endorsement matter. It doesn't matter at all.
I didn't even really think about this, Kenny, until you just brought this up, right? Like, nobody is changing their vote from independent to Kamala Harris or from Trump to Kamala Harris, because Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, was like, the Force is with Kamala Harris because the Force is female. Like, nobody's doing that. They're saying, okay, Mark, we get it. Like, and you hit something, Kenny. It doesn't mean as much, because the preconceived notion is that if you're in Hollywood, if you're an elitist, yeah, you're probably going to be Democrat, right? That's just like baked into the cake here. So when somebody does step out and they're like, actually, no, I don't believe this gobbledygook. Like, that's why I think Chris Pratt got such a positive feedback from folks on the right side of the aisle, because he is very proudly Christian conservative. Well, maybe not conservative so much proudly and openly, but at the very least, he's very open about his religion. And that definitely ruffles some jimmies, right? When it comes to the Hollywood elite, right? How dare you not echo it back exactly what you heard at church today, right? And our church is the government. So how dare you stand up, you blasphemous little jerk? Go back and march in your line. You're not supposed to question what we believe here. You're supposed to sing from the same book, right? Like, you go to church and you open up your hymnal, open to page 264. Let's all sing together, right? And everybody's all, ah, nah, 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 nah. They all sing their song. That is what the Democratic Party expects from its members. We're reading from the same hymnal. We're singing the same song. You step out, you're dead to us, right? And right now, I think we're at a perfect point, Kenny. More and more folks are saying, nah, I'm good. The country is not looking too hot. Going back to the Bret Baier interview with Kamala Harris, 79% of Americans say that we are on the wrong path, the wrong track right now as a country. That's a real number, right? Like, that happened. It is happening. And I think you're getting to a point where the average person, Kenny, they're just so tired. They're looking at everything that's happening in the world, from COVID to the insanity of today, all the riots, the Black Lives Matter riots, the wars. They're burnt out. They're tired. And they're just like, can we please just kind of go back to normality, right? Now, elephant in the room, normal's gone. It's never coming back. But, right, what we can do is change what the future looks like, so it at least is more normal-ish, right? Like, we can try to undo what has been done. I'm turning to Kamala over here, because we have been burdened by what has been. But with that being said, right, like, it gives us a chance to set a new pathway. And I think the new pathway, Kenny, is going to be one of not necessarily cultural conservatism, but cultural normality, right? No more of this goofy stuff on the left. No more dudes can be girls and girls can be dudes. No more like love is love and knows no age. Nope, that's pedophilia. Like, all this kind of nonsense that has been embraced by the left, I think is going to, over the next few years, really just start to kind of be yeeted out the window. You're already seeing it with the big corporations being like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't be promoting DEI practices as Tractor Supply Company. Does that not resonate with our market? Oh, maybe we shouldn't be promoting DEI activities as John Deere, right? Like all of a sudden, these companies out there are saying, yep, maybe this isn't as effective as we thought, and maybe it isn't productive as we thought. So they're jumping ship. I think next is going to be a celebrity class, and we're seeing that happen right now in real time. Celebrities, athletes, they're like, yeah, this woke stuff is goofy, and they're jumping ship. So I think inevitably what's going to happen is from 2024 to 2028, 2028 to 2032. That feels weird to say. But like when we get to 2032, I think America is going to look very different. And the optimist in me, Kenny, the eternal optimist, is I think it's going to look better in the best of ways. Now, before I get your final thoughts today, Kenny, we will go ahead. I know lots of folks listening, they're getting nervous, right? They're like, okay, we're talking about 4 years, 8 years in the future. 8 years in the future, where will I be 8 years in the future? Will I be happy, healthy, successful? Well, you never know, right? So that's why you need to have insurance to make sure, just in case things go wrong, somebody's got your back. And I have a brand new company. You've all heard of the big insurance companies out there. I hear them all the time in podcasts. Our new sponsor, Policy Engineer, they're doing things in the insurance game differently. Let's go ahead and take a listen. Hey, folks, let's talk about something important. I don't know, like protecting your family's future. If you're starting a family, you know how overwhelming it can be. Suddenly, every decision impacts more than just you, and it's scary to think about leaving your loved ones financially vulnerable. Well, that's why today I want to tell you about a brand new sponsor here on the Brian Nichols Show, Policy Engineer, a company that's changing the insurance game. But they don't just offer life insurance. They engineer personalized solutions that grow with your family. And get this, their tech-savvy approach makes securing your family's future as easy as ordering takeout. And it's September, meaning it's Life Insurance Awareness Month. So why not take that first step towards peace of mind? Head over to policyengineer.com and check out how they can build a plan as unique as your future. And trust me, it's not just insurance. It's a promise to protect what matters most. So, one more time, head over to policyengineer.com, and when you visit, tell them that Brian from the Brian Nichols Show sent you. Let's make sure our families are protected. And now, let's get back to the show. It helps when I remember how my actual ad goes. Kenny, we're going to wrap things up here. Let's put a nice, neat bow on the episode. So, take us home. Where did we get things right? Where did we get things wrong? What should people be paying attention to as we go forward to the election? It's been a while since you were on the show, candidly. So I hope that we get you on again before the election, but just in case, what should we be prepared for here, Kenny?
Don't get complacent. I know the betting markets look great. Trump's a 60-40 betting market odds favorite. And of course, people say all the time, well, how can you trust those markets? I said, they're more reliable than polls are, to be quite honest. They really are. They predicted every winner but two since like 1846, I think, somewhere around there. So it's pretty looking pretty good for us. But don't get complacent. Go to your voting booths. I don't think people are. I mean, like I said, here in my own county, where 10% of our entire population, not our voting population, but our entire population is voting in early voting. I think it's a really, really, really good sign through 3 or 4 days of early voting. But I just don't want to be complacent, man. We are fighting a really culturally Marxist. I know I say that word a lot, but they truly are evil. I do want to get back to a sense of normality, and I know that the word normality and nationalist populist doesn't really come off the tongue too well to some people. But that's where we need to be. Get back to the 2017 through 2021 Donald Trump era, and I think that's what's going to bring normality back to our country. And we can't afford to be complacent. We can't afford to say, she's nothing, she's awful. Watch her interview, watch her appearances. She's not going to beat Trump. You never know. I mean, I personally think Trump's going to win the election. That's the way I stand right now. And I was with you like early on in 2020. I didn't think we were going to win in 2020. Now, I think there were some things done that shifted the election towards Biden and mail-in ballots and things like that. But I've never felt the way that I do now. I've never felt as confident. I didn't feel so confident in 2016. Didn't feel confident in 2020, and I now feel confident. And I feel confident ever since Trump announced he was going to run for the election here in 2024. So I really just think we need to have a understanding that we have to fight. We have to fight, like Trump says. I think that's a mantra we can all adopt. If he's willing to take a bullet in the ear and willing to risk himself and put himself out there in the public to get assassinated, I think we should be able to say, hey, this you may disagree with this dude. Like I said, I agree with him on most things. But even if you disagree with him, be like Tulsi Gabbard, be like RFK. Find the things that you agree with him on, because I promise you, him being a populist, you will find them. And let's change the country. Let's actually have some sort of ambition to us. Let's have some sort of idea that we have to fight and we have to reject this culturally Marxist evil that the Kamala Harris campaign and the Democrat Party embodies. And keep, for your writers, keep writing. For your show hosts, keep hosting people that are going to expand minds. For alternative media, be that alternative that gives the access to the people that need it. And for voters, go vote. I don't care if my county has went through a disaster, and I'm seeing more of an absolute voter turnout than I've ever seen before in my lifetime as a GOP chair. So if we can do it, you can do it. I promise you. If people who have lost their homes and lost everything can go to the ballot box and want to change this country, so can you. And that's my last encouragement: is there's no excuse. Go vote.
I'm going to give my final thoughts here, and then I know we have to wrap things up, Kenny. My final thoughts are echoed of what I said on a podcast I was on recently, actually this past Thursday, and also Brian's briefing episode that will be airing today. Actually, it's going to air after our live stream today, so folks, go ahead, make sure you hit subscribe to catch that. But just to give you kind of the Spark Notes version, I get very frustrated personally when the conversation is always about this perception of how much of a unique threat that Donald Trump represents to the American democracy. And I, on the show that I was on this past week, I said this. I was like, it's frustrating that we focus on this. This is the mentality. And yet, we never talk about how dangerous the Kamala Harris campaign is. We never talk about what the actual outcomes of a Biden-Harris administration have been. 13 million illegals crossing the border over the past 3.5 years. Inflation, the highest it has been in 45, 50 years. We're seeing the cost of living skyrocket, the cost of homes skyrocket, the quality of living decrease. These big cities are completely collapsing. We see rampant drug use. We see cartels at the Mexican border bringing all these illegal drugs over to the United States. There is a very real negative impact, negative consequence of a Biden-Harris administration. We felt it over the past 3.5 years. And this mindset of just pretending that doesn't exist because Trump is some unique evil. I'm sorry, that is the epitome of privilege. I know that word means a lot to some of you folks on the left. You are privileged if you are voting against Trump simply because in your mind, he represents some unique threat to American democracy. Okay, if that's the case, actually dig. What unique threat does he pose? What actually happened on J6? You want to dig into some of that stuff? I have archives of past interviews we've done here on the show, digging into exactly what happened on January 6th from people who are both pro-Trump and anti-Trump, right? But getting a complete context of what happened. Go listen to the Culture War podcast with Tim Pool this past week, or maybe the week before, where he interviews Adam Johnson and Steve Baker, and they talk about what actually happened there from a journalist perspective, right? Like, understand what you believe before you get onto your podcast or you get onto social media and start spouting off nonsense, right? Because that right there, again, speaks to the privilege that you have as someone who is just looking at the world and saying, I'm only going to vote based on this one issue that really doesn't impact you at all, first of all. But second, is completely contrived and has been built by the corporate media and the deep state apparatuses to be presented to the American populace in such a way. But to look at the other side of the aisle, the folks who, and not the aisle, just the other side of the reality, the folks who are suffering, right? That their families have been impacted by illegal immigration, Haitian gangs, Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes, which is happening. The argument, it's not happening, that's all contrived. No, it's happening. It's been admitted to and discussed by these leaders in their communities. It's happening. Talk about the increase in healthcare costs, the increase in the grocery costs, the increase in your insurance costs, plus all the nonsense has been taking place over the past 4 or 5 years. Your business is being shut down because you didn't get a jab fast enough, because you losing your job because you refused to get a jab. You're seeing your neighborhoods burn down because Black Lives Matter. So we're going to burn down our neighborhoods. Sorry. These are all very real impacts that hurt your average person. And it matters, right? And this pretending that, well, this one thing that we're going to wrap our arms around is the most important issue, Trump, January 6th. I'm sorry. I'll repeat myself one more time. You are privileged if you think that that is something that really matters to your average American. And you are privileged if you are going into the voting booth, voting with that as your number one thing in mind. With that being said, Kenny, I'm going to go ahead. I'll take a step back from my soapbox here. I'll let folks, first of all, get to know where they can go ahead and find you. But I know I saw you getting ready to jump in there. Give me your final thoughts here as we wrap things up.
Yeah, final thoughts. Like I said, go vote. Brian's completely right. The Democrats have this false sense of democracy falling if Kamala Harris doesn't win, but it's the same thing they're always going to have, for the same mentality that we're going to have for us until the day that populism and nationalism dies in our party. So don't let it. Let's never go back to the moderate politics. Let's never go back to the country club politics of old. Let's stay with the idea that we have to find conservative solutions to the issues that people are the most passionate about. Let's go back to the mantra of adopting an idea that is prioritizing our country first before anybody else. And the way that we do that is electing not only Donald Trump, not only, people like J.D. Vance as vice president, but those in our local, state, and federal politics that embody this idea that their districts are going to come first, their states are going to come first, and ultimately our people are going to come first. And hopefully this idea of complacency is not just applied to not voting, but hopefully it's applied to the idea, let's just not give up and hand the power back to the people who put us in this position in the first place before we needed Donald Trump. Let's never go back to that. Let's never revert back to the Bush Republican Party. Let's always stay in this idea that we are wanting to go out to voters and find what we have to be passionate about and try to find conservative solutions to the issues that people care about, as you always say, Brian. So I really want to make a plea. Let's not stop fighting. Let's keep the foot on the gas. And let's create a movement that was started by Donald Trump, yes, but let's continue it even after he's done. When and if he wins this election here in under 3 weeks, let's go. Let's keep on. Let's drive out the vote. Let's appeal to these new sets of voters that we have obviously got over the last 10 years, these new demographics that have changed. And let's create a dominant party that can bring the needed change to this country that we have to have. And again, to the podcasters, to the show hosts, to the writers, to the journalists, to the political activists, the people like Scott Presser who are knocking doors, the RNC that is the new RNC leadership that is prioritizing election integrity. Let's keep on doing. Let's not just do this for 2024. Let's do this for every election year for the rest of our careers. Let's keep their foot on the gas. Let's win some elections, and let's unite as a party. Not under the mantra of moderation, not under the mantra of centrism. Let's fight. People want fight. Let's bring it to them. And the roles that we have now, let's adapt. I'm not just become a writer. I'm an activist. Let's not just be a podcaster. Be an alternative media voice. And that's the mantra that I can give to people is try and adopt an idea of fight. And if we can do that, not only is our party going to change forever, our country is going to change forever.
Kenny Cody, you can follow him on Twitter at KDCodyTN. By the way, go ahead and support all of his great work at Human Events. Kenny, all the love And prayers to Cock County, Tennessee. I know you guys have been going through just some horrible stuff there post-Helene. I'm so thankful that Milton missed you guys as well, because that just could have been exponentially worse. But with that being said, just do me a quick favor, Kenny. Is there any way for the audience to go ahead and support you folks there in Cock County as you guys are still rebuilding?
Yeah, absolutely. So mountainways.org is a charity organization that you can go to donate to the counties affected, such as Unicoi, Greene, Cock, and Sevier County, and then Carter and Washington County. The Cock County Partnership, which is our Chamber of Commerce, has a donation link at its website. If you just want to type in Cock County Partnership, you will find the donation link if any of your viewers want to go there and donate. Just keep on supporting. If you have any donations, if you don't have any water, I think we're almost overloaded with donations at this point, thankfully. But just keep us in your prayers. The Almighty Lord is who can give us the most opportunity to prosper post Hurricane Helene. So I'm thankful to the Lord for protecting us and make sure that there's not more. That we only had 2 deaths here in Cock County. Thankfully, our neighbors in Unicoi County and Western North Carolina were not as lucky. So I'm thankful that we stayed as safe as we did. But yeah, just go to those websites, see how much you can give back to us. If anybody has it in their heart to donate, those go straight to Cock County. Those go straight to our designated areas. So just mainly keep us in your prayers and your thoughts.
Thank you for that, Kenny. No, I know I've been watching what's been going on down there, and holy cow, it's been like eye-opening, horrifying, and like just gut-wrenching. The devastation, the human capital, like just the fact that this has been so, I want to say ignored. It definitely has been in our purview, but like the average person is not at all aware of the very real impact that has taken place over the past few weeks here into the past few months with all the hurricane devastation. So please go ahead, support our good friends there down in Cock County, but also throughout the Southeast. Send your love, send your dollars if you can. Kenny, it's always great talking to you. It's been a while since we've done a show here together, so looking forward to doing this again in the future. Thank you for filling in for Remzo today. And with that being said, folks, if you got some value, yes, we were live here on Twitter. Was trying to get Rumble set up. For some reason, Rumble said nah. So we were just solo here on Twitter today. So if you joined us on the Twitter live stream, thank you for joining us. Go down below, give us some love. Let us know your thoughts. Also, please share the episode. Give it a retweet. Give it a heart. That's how we help get the show in front of more folks, reach more people, show them how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. That's how we win. And yes, Kenny hit the nail on the head. When you're going out and meeting people where they're at, you're not just selling an idea. You're transferring the enthusiasm of what that idea can help solve. So go out, be enthusiastic, have the energy, have that passion. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and put a pin into today's conversation. So Brian Nichols signing off here on the Brian Nichols Show, our AMP America Week in Review for our good friend Kenny Cody. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.